name's Thomas Waddle. This is a Whisky Sour Hour episode 13. First of all, just like to say thanks for joining. Thanks for the support and the messages over the last few weeks there. Obviously, we had a short break last week, but we're back. And I think just after, obviously, the last week or so, just a quick review of what's been going on. It'll help us find our feet a little bit. So, when we left you last, we were Easter, so all the cakes were getting spoken about, and going to see Sinners at the multiplex. And Sinners, I'd went in with quite high hopes. We're going to talk about a lot of things here, so let's strap in. But went in with quite high hopes with Sinners. I saw it getting rave reviews, and I tend not to get too caught up in the kind of furor, the build up to movies, because 9 times out of 10 you end up disappointed. You're not going to get a Return of the King every time, but went in. Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan. It's a good wee mix. Ludwig Göransson doing the music, and I'll be honest, I made a mistake. I went in expecting From Dusk Till Dawn, and it's really no that at all. It's I don't want to give away too much, but I mean in the trailers, it's there's vampires, and I don't think I was hoodwinked or anything, but I think maybe the trailers make it seem like there's going to be like a big siege and maybe a big Barney, a big brawl. It doesn't really come to that. I mean, it's okay. It's fine, but when I watch From Dusk Till Dawn, it's just I don't know. It's more fun, but yeah, maybe that's not what it's going for. But the film itself is out of 10. I think I would give it a 6.5, and I know that's not the norm, and that does not mean it's bad in any way. I think you should go and see it if it's your thing. But I think going in, I expected watching it again, I think I'll enjoy it more, but I'm a one and done. I can only go and see a film once, and that's it. I will never pay twice to go and see a movie at the cinema when I know it'll be out, on streaming, or I can buy it if I'm a big Blu-ray guy. So Sinners, Easter weekend, it was good, but it wasn't. It isn't a 90 whatever percent in Rotten Tomatoes, but what is when you see that, it's all subjective, really, isn't it? It's art at the end of the day. But yeah, it was mildly disappointed, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I just had, as I say, really really high hopes. For anybody that saw the movie, there is after credit scenes that I can't be bothered, sticking behind in credits anymore. I've done it for 15 years with the Marvel movies. I was like, get me out of here. So I know that there's after credit scenes. It sets up more films in the future. But listen, if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. But what the film itself, just to kind of get back in track. Sorry, I was waffling for a little bit there. The film itself, Sinners, Michael B. Jordan. It's good, and the setup. I mean, I was intrigued from the beginning. I love that kind of time period. Not because of the laws that are in place. I just find it, kind of the depression, and just kind of Capones and. It's just an exciting time. I think there's good stories. One of my favourites is The Untouchables. I set around the kind of similar time with bootleggers and prohibition. It's a good melting pot for stories. Plus the film itself, for anybody who doesn't know, like I says, there's vampires on it. There's a lot of kind of southern gothic kind of vibes that, again, I don't know if it's because the South, there's a lot of connections. Obviously, America's very European-y, but there's different parts. You've got your kind of Creole, French, and Louisiana, and there's a kind of connection there with those ways, especially when you watch the film. The villain is has an American accent, but it's, it seems heavily implied that he's Irish, probably for Belfast, so not too far from here. But yeah, like the kind of setup, and it's two brothers played by Michael B. Jordan, so they're twins, Smoke and Stack. Come back for Chicago. Some dodgy dealings have went on, and they've got money, and they've got power, and the people down there do not like that. And you know who I'm talking about here. The whites that are in power, and they buy an old sawmill. And they're wanting to turn it into basically a nightclub, is it a gin joint, or a Duke joint, they call it. So basically they set that up, and then music plays a big part of it. There's storytellers, and what it talks about, as I say, there's a lot of mysticism, cultural kind of connections. I'm probably not selling it to you. It's the setup I found really interesting, and I really liked it. I will say though, at just shy of 2.5 hours, it's a wee bit long. The setup itself, I mean, they don't actually set the club up to like the first 50 minutes, and again, it's quite good, but in hindsight, knowing the way it pays off, I was like, I don't know if that's too exciting. But one of the things I did notice, and I like taking silly little notes and thinking about things that long after, probably looking too far into something, but like I said, you've got the two brothers, and what happens is I noticed they dressed quite distinctly, some, and it took me a wee while to kind of get it. Like I couldn't work it out. I was like, why's he got like a bonnet on, and the other fella's got like like, I don't know, is it a trilby or something? Like it was a kind of weird hat, and it wasn't until kind of thought back about it. One of the brothers takes to do with the Irish mob, and the other one takes to do with the Italian mob. And I was like, that's quite cool how they dress like one, and they kind of act that way as well. One's about power, the other one's more about kind of puts on a front of wanting power, but it's like more to do with the family kind of stuff. So it was quite interesting that way. There's a lot of kind of good characters that come in. Delroy Lindo, who's an actor that, again, one of those guys that his face, don't know his name, or know his name but don't know his face. Just a great kind of character actor turns up, and he puts on a great performance. I imagine it will win awards, and there is characters in this, actors that deserve nominations. Whether or not will win it or not, I'm not too sure. I mentioned obviously Ludwig Göransson. He is the composer, and he's done a lot with the director. God's sake, Ryan Coogler. He's done a lot with the director, and I'll be honest, it's probably one of the weaker scores for me. But that's not to say it's bad. It's just when you're coming off films like Tenet, and even like the first Black Panther movie, there's a distinct like sound, and this has a kind of distinct sound, but it also kind of fades away. But I think there's a scene in the middle of it that kind of took me, I was kind of like, what is going on here? Like it's a bit weird, and the music kind of sticks out at that point, but as a whole, the kind of movie and music, it fades into the background. But because the writing is quite good, you don't really mind it. But I would go in with just some caution. I was speaking to Chris, so one of our listeners, and I'd gave him the recommendation. I said, look, it's not bad. It's quite good. He did not like it. It turns out, and I get it. It's kind of chalk or cheese, but sometimes movies just aren't for you. That's the way I look at things. I'm just like, you know what? I went in quite excited, and maybe it wasn't for me. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you if you were listening to this, so I know if you're not, if you weren't mentioned. So we'll kind of put Sinners in the back burner. Worth seeing, perhaps, but maybe wait till it comes out in streaming, or eventually when Max, the Warner Brothers HBO streaming service, comes eventually to Scotland, which can't come soon enough, because I just want to get rid of Netflix. It's absolute guff. And so we'd mentioned obviously the kind of Southern Gothic mysticism, and it was just a bizarre kind of chain of events. I was looking on the Xbox Game Pass catalogue because I cannot be buying games all the time, and when it comes on your phone and it's free, I was like, look, I'm going to take advantage of this. So similar to having like a streaming service, you can go in and you can pick games, $9.99 a month, and you get as many games as you want, or ones that are on there. So I have the Ultimate Edition or Ultimate Level, which means you get all the brand new games as well. So I was on there, and there was this game, and it kind of caught my eyes because I enjoy quite interesting animations, and it needs to kind of stand out. It's called South of Midnight, and it's one that I downloaded, and I'm really, really enjoying, but there was like a kind of bizarre connection between that and Sinners, so I'd been playing that a couple of days before it, and the game itself is very much about folklore, and there's some thing, to be honest, it's most of them you wouldn't really know. It's like, imagine doing like a game set in Scotland and you're going after things like Sonny Bean, or like, I don't know, I was going to say Blade Gangs of Glasgow, but that's not really, folklore. But you know what I mean, like, Loch Ness or something, or Loch Ness. I can't believe I just said that wrong. I'm going to get absolutely crucified for that. So, it's very much the American kind of way that. So there's like a big alligator called Two-Toed Tom, which is not a nickname that's going to stick for me, thankfully. And when you're going through it, there's very much this kind of Louisiana Creole vibe, and for the life of me, I can't remember where Sinners is set. I want to say it's maybe like Oklahoma, Mississippi or something. And I know they're miles and miles apart, although the map it probably looks kind of quite close. But there's just this. I think it'd be very good if you saw the movie and played the game. They go very well together, like kind of peanut butter and chocolate. Like you're like, this shouldn't really work, but it does, because there's like set in the kind of same way, same just vibe. And I don't like saying that because vibe check, and I don't like saying that, but there is a very much the same vibe with the two of them. So again, I think I'll appreciate it more. But if I'm going to recommend anything, I would recommend playing South of Midnight, but that would normally be the point where you're like, right, that there's only one game this week, but for the last maybe like 4 or 5 weeks, there's been like, big game after big game. And again, I don't have a lot of time, in a week, you're looking maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, if I'm quite lucky, in a week, to be able to kind of sit down and put time into the old Xbox. But when I was on there, I noticed that just there seems to be like big games dropping, quite regularly, after a massive drought, at the beginning of the year. So it was quite nice to see that. But not everything's for you, and it's like, you go into. I said Netflix was gash earlier, but here we go. You go into your Netflix, and there'll be like one show that you like, but there'll be like 4 or 5 other shows or movies that you're never going to watch. And for me, it's very much like that. I'm quite. I think I'm quite kind of sparing with my time. I don't want to take too much on something that I'm not enjoying. Like, how many episodes do you give it on a show before you're like, actually, you know what, this isn't good? Because I know how many times I've said to somebody, I'll get into the American Office is great, but the first season is dire and it's 6 episodes, and I'm like, just get by the first 6 episodes. I promise you'll be fine. It's the same with Parks and Rec, bizarrely made by the same people. It takes at least the first season to get in, and I don't think that's fair to expect somebody to go through it. But I will always fight in their corner and say, look, you need to persevere with it. And you should drop something if you're not enjoying it. And I find myself doing that kind of a lot more regularly. With media, books, films, TVs. I'll just like, this is not doing it for me, and I don't want to waste my time going through it. So there's a lot of the stuff there that just isn't for me. There was like Blueprints, which was like a kind of puzzle game, and I tried it for like maybe 10-15 minutes, and I was like, I know I'm not going to enjoy this, so I'm not going to persevere with it. And I think that's because you're not going out and spending like at least £50-60 on a game each time. You can go in and download and try it and move on should you want to. But I was in the skeptical kind of camp for this. As I say, I usually kind of play one to 2 games a month. If they're 20 hours each, you could maybe get 2 games played in a month, and to a decent completion. So when I was sitting on like a Tuesday, afternoon a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden, I'm getting my messages are lighting up by Greg, another listener of the show, going daft that Oblivion has been re-released. I immediately had to download that. So for anybody who doesn't know, and I enjoy talking about it. So we're here now. You've got Oblivion, which is part of the Elder Scrolls series, which a massive series of games that run back to the early 90s. And I've just realised I keep saying and I'm really trying not to do it, so I apologise for that. I'm trying to get rid of saying but it has seemed to have taken over for that, so we will endeavour to get rid of that. But the Elder Scrolls it's a game series that goes back right to the beginning, a gaming, and I just done it again. And so when you go back to the older ones, you can't really play the first two. I'll be honest. I'm somebody that grew up in the 90s and loves it. I'm not yucking your yum, but it's very difficult to go back and even get those games running. So skip over them. You've got Morrowind, which is very much Elder Scrolls 3, very very RPG, very heavy to get into, pretty difficult to get running, apart from the fact that it's backwards compatible on Xbox. I tried it. It's very, very dated. But Oblivion came out in 2006. It was probably one of those games that I think most people who had an Xbox at the time, and what a lot of people forget is Xbox came out a year before PlayStation 3, so it was the first next gen HD. It wasn't just a console you put on, like it had the Xbox kind of experience built into it, and this was a game that you knew couldn't happen anywhere else. I, being a young lad of 14 at the time, never got round to playing it, just because disposable incomes, and by the time I had money for them, I just didn't think I would like it, so I skipped it. Read about it a lot. It sounded really intimidating. I am just going to be an open book here with you. I used to get scared at games quite easily. I used to, if anybody remember when you would put on like an Activision game, and the opening screen for that was like a kind of low hum, and then all of a sudden like A would like bust out the screen, and CT Vision would come up. I'm not going to try and spell and embarrass myself there, but yeah, Activision would like bust out the screen, man. It used to freak me out. Like I couldn't, I just couldn't do it. I was like, "What? Get away from me!" And I used to be a bit of a wimp when it came to games. I don't know why. Movies never bothered me. I think it's just because you feel like you're the character in games. And I don't know why. Oblivion just freaked me out. Like it felt too intimidating. RPGs just scared me. Role playing games, so like your Final Fantasies and stuff. That was just too much for me. I thought I'm going to get lost in a maze or a dungeon and never get out. So it put me right off. So that was 2006. Fast forward to 2011. Still fear. No, I'm only joking. Elder Scrolls 5 came out, so that was Skyrim, and that's a name that's like synonymous with just greatness, and so was Oblivion. I'm not saying it wasn't, but Skyrim to me is like just Oblivion and Skyrim and just Bethesda games in general are very much comfort games, like warm blankets. I've found myself going back to Skyrim more often than not, just to go and just go on a wee adventure, go into a cave that you've never been into before, and the game's that big. I've played it. I'll be honest, like playing it during my late teens, early 20s, it was very much, you had all the disposable time in the world, and I'm not ashamed to admit I've probably spent, I'd say at least, and I don't say this lightly because I know it's not a multiplayer game, so you're not playing it continuously, and you'll see people with like 1,000+ hours on like Fortnite or something like that. But I would hedge a guess and say I've probably done about 400 hours in Skyrim, which is tragic, because how many hours do you need to do to be a master at something? And I'm nowhere near close to that. I just used to walk about and collect flowers, and that was the vibe I was going for. But Skyrim just is just a seminal work. It's one of my favourite games all time, top 5. And we're 15 years on from it now. They announced Elder Scrolls 6 a while like so long ago that I think now there's been more time passed between the announcement to now than there was between Skyrim and the announcement, which is wild. So when this got announced, or I say it was announced, there was a video put out, a 20-minute video, and then it was just shadow dropped, which just means it came out at the time, the end of the video, so two Tuesdays ago I believe it was. And to me it's almost like having a new game. So the game being 20 years old, they updated the visuals and brought it more in line with a more Skyrim experience. So I did try and start Oblivion back. I want to say like 2017, 2018 when it became backwards compatible, because Xbox can play like every gaming generation it's had. There's quite a few games you can get in there. Like I mentioned, Morrowind was original Xbox, and you had Xbox 360 and Xbox One and blah blah blah. So I tried Oblivion, and as I say, this was 11 years after it came out, and I'll be honest, it was pretty rough, and I did not last in it. I didn't like. I was comparing it to Skyrim, which wasn't fair. That was a game that came out late on in the Xbox's kind of life. It was like 2 years before the Xbox One came out and PlayStation 3, those kind of ones. And it was just better in every way. I mean, you could argue the story, but I'm quite early in on it, so I can't say it's my favourite. I can't say it's any worse than Skyrim. The guilds are quite good. I've done a few of the guilds, which are wee side stories. They're quite good. But yeah, I'd never experienced the original one. And what they've done here now is they've re-released it. Skyrim. They probably will release Skyrim remastered for the current generation, because they've released it that many times. But Oblivion's came out, and what they've done is they have brought the visuals up to modern standards. And they've also updated some of the gameplay to make it more, I would say, to make it more in line with Skyrim. I've came into this, it's almost like having a brand new game. I think I've probably put, over the last 2 weeks, maybe just shy of 10 hours into it. I'm loving it. It's the absolute, comfort blanket, cup of Horlicks or hot chocolate, whatever is your fancy. Maybe a wee Irish coffee, but it's just superb. There's so much like depth in it, and it from speaking to people, it's just a game that it's how they remember it, and that's what the best remasters do, is they bring the visuals and they maybe round off a bit of the gameplay and make it how you remember it. If it's like 20 years old, that's how it's remembered by you, even though it wasn't when you go back and play the originals. So I've came into this, as I say, probably just shy of 10 hours into it, loving it. It is the absolute comfort food. There's so many little janky things in it, and you can I want to say cheese some of your levels, so you can over level yourself quite easily, but the game then throws big monsters at you, and I'll be honest, and I'm no fear of them, is what you were thinking there when I said that, but I'll be honest, I don't have time to be playing like difficult games anymore. I play games to relax. These like Dark Souls games where it's like, prepare to die, mate, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be honest, I picked this one easy, and I am just absolutely wrecking shop, and I'm loving it. It is a power fantasy, and I am just running about with a warhammer and a steel mace, just leathering folk, and I'm having the best time. It is just so relaxing. It's not all about smashing heads, I promise you, but just so good. I think we mentioned South of Midnight earlier. I think if this hadn't came out, South of Midnight would have been probably all I played this month, because that's it. But Oblivion has been a really nice distraction, and I think it'd be very much appreciated if they remade other Bethesda games, which for anybody who knows gaming, it's like watching a Chris Nolan movie. It's a Chris Nolan movie. When you play a Bethesda game, you're like, I know this is a Bethesda game, and it comes with a little bit of roughness around the edges, but it's still just so much fun. So I would highly recommend it. I didn't want this to run on too long. don't want to get too real. Just it's just been a wee bit of just a wee bit of a difficult time, and I don't want to like burden anybody. This is a safe space for chill chat and casual banter. But just to be real, for 5 minutes, say I have me and my wife have set up a charity. Give me a second. We have set up a charity, like I want to say like jogathon, walkathon, just get the miles in. It's 31 miles in May, so 31 miles, 31 days. We're raising charity, raising money for charity. It's a charity called Sand, and give me a second there, guys. It's so Stillborn and Neonatal Death Society, they just do amazing work. We're raising money for them. I'll put the link in the bio. Any money that can go towards just can be donated would be much appreciated. We're doing this episode, and I ran for a mile for the first time in a long time. I'm feeling it a wee bit, but I'm so glad I've done it. As I say, if you could donate a little bit to that'd be wonderful, and it would be much appreciated. As I say, I'll share the links in the bio, but just to remove us for the realness there. Let's just let's just call it a day at that. Just some kind of wee updates, just wee housekeeping before we go. We have a really good audio system that we're working with now, and we are going to be looking to produce more on-site interviews, so look forward to them coming up. I have put the feelers out. We will have updates soon, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, content is just going to be so much more, I like to say, so much more professional sounding. Obviously, I think this sounds pretty good. We do a wee bit of tweaking. Anthony, thank you for the advice again. But yeah, we want it to sound as best as possible, and especially when we're out and about, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be hassling people. We want to kind of work around them, so we will do that. So yeah, there'll be new format interviews kind of coming out sooner than later, so just keep your eye out for them. Obviously, anybody that wants to get in touch, you can go through Facebook, you can go through Instagram, and remember, you can also comment on Spotify, which is the way forward. Out with that, you can also email us, contact@thewhiskeysourhour.com. Please do. We get kind of regular emails and that, so they do get answered, I promise you. It's sometimes I don't know if it's the servers or something, because it's like a private kind of one. It's they can be a bit temperamental, but that so far the last month or so they've been running really well. So if I haven't replied to your email, it's it's on me. It's not the servers. I can't blame them. But without kind of rambling on more than I usually do, I know it's been a wee bit shorter than that, but it's just been nice to be back and chatting with you, and I hope you've had a great day. When this goes live on Saturday, whatever you're doing, have a great one. So far it's been quite a warm week up until this point, so long may it continue into the weekend, and have a good one, have a safe one. I've been Thomas Waddle. This has been the Whisky Sour Hour. Cheers.